Hello and welcome to on this course, which is building machine learning models using ChatGPT in 1 hour. And I am very thrilled to have you to join me on this exciting journey into the world of machine learning with ChatGPT. Now, in this course, we will going to explore the key steps which is involved in building and evaluating the machine learning models, and all you can learn in just 1 hour using ChatGPT. Now, let's jump into first the objective of the project, and the objective here is which is called bike sharing demand. Now this is one of the Kaggle competition which happened like 8 years back, and although it has been closed, but we can still use this objective to build our model, and we can still submit our submissions as well. So let's first understand what is this bike sharing demand is this. So there is a company in the Washington DC area where they typically rent bikes for the people. It can be students, it can be working people, it can be any other person who wants to rent the bike. They typically operate in both holidays as well as the non-holiday days. So they want to build some kind of a model which can basically predict the rental demand for every hour. So they want to understand, okay, next day in next 24 hours, they want to understand at every hour how many rental demands would be coming so that they can plan accordingly. So this basically a regression model which we need to build, which will take some inputs, and then we need to predict some regression number or a rental demand number for every hour. Now here we can also see that we need to combine some historical usage patterns with weather data in order to forecast bike rental demand in the capital bike share program in Washington DC. And now here is the data set for this course. So again, this data set has been downloaded from the Kaggle website only, and this is some of the training data what they have shared with us. So we can see that in our training data we are expecting to have around 10887 rows include the header, and we can see there are some missing values as well in some of the columns. Now there are 12 columns as well. One first column is the date time column, which is basically the date and the hour of the day. So as I said in the introduction about the objective, that this data set will have a like a aggregation or granularity at an hourly level. So you can see that on 1st of January 12 a.m. then the next row is 1st of January 1 a.m. then third row is 1st of January 2 a.m. So basically it basically going to aggregate or granularity at an hourly level of a given day. Now the next column is season. So we expect to have like a 4 different seasons. So we can see that we have 4 different seasons, 1, 2, 3, 4, and basically at that particular hour what kind of a season it's happening, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Similarly, we can have like a holiday column which basically tell us whether that particular day was a holiday or a non-holiday. So 0 means that it was a holiday and 1 means it's a non-holiday. And similarly for working day as well, which basically tell us whether it was a working day or not. So if value is 1, that means it's a working day. When value is 0, it's a non-working day. Then weather. So we can expect like 4 different type of weather in this data set. I don't know exactly what is the definition of each of the weather, but we expect to have 4 different values of a weather in this data set. Now the next 2 column, which is temp and atemp, it basically telling me that for that particular hour what was the minimum temperature and the max temperature. You know that in a given hour there can be a variability of a temperature as well. You can have like at 12 a.m. temperature to be 984, but 12:30 you can have maybe increase by 1 degree. So what these 2 columns are doing is storing the min value and the max value of the temperature for that particular hour, which is like 12 to 1. This will be 1 to 2. This will be 2 to 3, and so on. Then they are storing the humidity for that hour. So that particular hour, what was the humidity? So we can see the humidity at 12 a.m. was 81. Then similarly, we expect like what would be the wind speed. And then the next 3 columns are our numerical columns, which will basically tell us how many bikes were rented at that particular hour. So we can see that for that particular hour, we rented total 16 bikes. 16 out of in that 16, 13 were from the registered users, 13 from the registered users, and 3 from the casual users. So you can see the summation of 3 plus 13 is 16. 8 plus 32 is equal to 40. 5 plus 27 is 32. So now it's very important to understand that for this particular course, we are not using these two columns, column J and column A, or casual or register. So I'm dropping these two columns during our modeling in our Python notebook, and we will use this column count as a target variable. So in when we predict the final outcome, we will be predicting this column L. So for this course, this column L, or column called count, will be treated as our target variable, because this will tell me that for given hour, how many total sales we have generated. So in this course, we are not typically worried about whether in that total sales of 16, how many were casual and registered. We are just telling us the final number to the company that, hey, for given day between 3 to 4, I am expecting 18 sales. I don't know what would be the proportion of casual and registered, but we are just predicting 18 sales. So that would be the objective. This is, as I mentioned, this is a regression regression modeling exercise, and we have to predict this continuous column called count, which is the total rental demand for that given hour, and this would be some of the inputs. So before we start using ChatGPT for building our models, so the way we typically take any help from any human being by providing them the context of the problem so that they can better assist us. Similar thing we will going to do with our ChatGPT as well. So before we ask for a ChatGPT to build model, before that we need to provide them like a business objective. We need to provide them a data set. We need to explain the data set as well. And then we need to tell them, what exactly we require from them. So let's jump into ChatGPT and see what are the details I'm providing for ChatGPT so that they can better understand our business code. So the first thing what we will going to do is to provide the business objective of this work. So let me paste in this message on ChatGPT. So what I am doing is that I am telling the project objective, the objective of this project, that there is a rental bicycle company who wants to build a model which can predict the total sales for given hours based on certain inputs. So basically, to build a regression algorithm to predict the total rental sales for the hour. So now we have cleared the project objective of this work. Now the next thing which we are going to do is to provide the data set, or maybe the explanation of the data set. So let's go, and I am providing the details of the data set. So let me print it here. Now this is what I have given the data set. So I have mentioned that this data set has been aggregated at an hourly level, and below are their columns and their descriptions. Now as you know that we have around 10 to 12 columns: date, time column, season column, holiday, working day, weather, temp, humidity, wind speed, and so on. And at the same time, I have given a one line of description for each of the column. So like, let's say for example, for date time, the time of the day, which has date and hour of the day. For example, for the next one, the season, there can be 4 possible seasons which have been tagged from 1 to 4. As we saw during our dataset preview, that we can have like a 4 different type of seasons in a given year. Similarly, the weather, I have told them that there can be 4 possible weathers which have been mapped again or tagged from 1 to 4. So this is how I have provided the description and the explanation of the data set so that ChatGPT should know what exactly the meaning of each of the column. Now the next step what we are going to do is to provide some sample data to them so that they can better understand what exactly or the expectations from the data it would be. So let me paste it here as well. Now I have pasted somewhere around like 100 rows, or maybe not 100, maybe like 50 rows, so that ChatGPT can understand some of the sample values, and then based on that it can assist better in doing our data profiling, data analysis, and so on. Now finally I'm telling a ChatGPT what I am expecting from them. So what I have written is that please outline all the steps for predicting or building the regression model. So basically I have provided all the basic details, the business context, sample values. Now I'm asking please outline all the steps which is typically required to build or predict a regression model. So let me hit enter. Now ChatGPT has providing us all the details about the outline. So let's go one by one what they have mentioned here. Now they're saying is that to build a regression model to predict the total sales for a company, it required this many steps. So as we can see, the step one is data pre-processing. So in the pre-processing, loading the data set, checking the missing values, then clean the data by handling missing values and outliers. Then the feature engineering part is to create new features if necessary. For example, you can extract the hour of the day from the daytime column, which makes a lot of sense, or do the one hot encoding of categorical columns like season, holiday, working day, and weather, which is again a very useful information, or a very when we have some of the categorical columns, we need to create all those kind of one hot encoding. Then it's asking to split into 80-20 for training the model. Then model selection, that it's suggesting what kind of a models we can use. Then train the model evaluation, hyperparameter tuning, and deployment, monitoring, and so on. So let's go one by one. Let's pick first step is to load our data set into the data tool like Python. So let's say we need to now load our data set. So the way I will tell to ChatGPT, I am telling is that let's start with step one. Load the data set into Python notebook. And do some basic and provide some basic information about the data. Some basic information about the data. So now it has started writing the code about how to load the data, how to see some of the values, then df.info to provide some of the information about the data type and the missing values, how many missing values, and df.describe. So let me copy this code. Now I will switch into the Python notebook, paste all the code, and now I will run this command. So now before that I need to change it to its name, the CSV file what we have. So the name of the CSV file, let me go back, which is bike_rental. So let me type bike_rental, and now I will read this file. So I am keeping the variable name as URL, and then read the file by using this command. So let me cut these commands and put it in the next cell so that we will run each code line by line, and then we will understand its outputs. So let's load the data set first. So we have successfully load the data and store it in the data frame or a variable called df. Now let's print some of the sample values. So print df.head will print some of the first 5 rows. So we can see that it has successfully loaded our data, and we can see this value makes sense because this is the same values what we have in the CSV. Now let's run df.info so that we can see some of the basic information about the data. So we can see that these are the list of the columns, and d type are the data type right now. So we can see that date time is taking as object, which is string. So it's typically Python right now not reading this column date time as a timestamp column. It's basically reading more like a string column. So make sure that when we use this column, we have to convert into a string, into a timestamp column. And then we have like count, which is float values, and whether again it's taking as integer value, and so on. Now we can see, we know that it has not shown us the size of the data frame. So we can ask, can you write the command for data frame shape, so that we can see how many rows and columns what we have. So it has given this code. So let's copy the code, and let's run this command after this cell, and we can see we have 10886 rows, more than 10,000 rows, and we have 12 columns. Now since we know that total number of rows in this data set is this much, and we can see that holiday has 10884 means it has two rows which might have two missing values. So that's why it's showing 10884 compared to 10886. So it means there are two missing values in holiday. And similarly, we can see even in the count, we have three missing values. So make sure that when we, start building this model, we have to replace or do something to, overcome this kind of a missing values. So let's confirm from one of the function what we have in the pandas, which is to df.isNull.sum to get or print missing values. And as we know that there are two missing values in holidays and there are three missing values on count, so it has confirmed by this function. Now finally we will do some of the descriptive statistics, and we can see some of the descriptive statistics as well. So if I see the target variable, which is our count, I can see that mean value is 191, whereas the median value is 145. So we can see that there is a difference between median and mean value, so might be some skewedness in the target variable, and we can check based on the distribution. So the next step what we do is to do some kind of a distribution to understand to plot some histogram or box plot to understand about target variable. Do we really have this kind of a skewedness in the target variable or not? So what we will do, we will ask the chat GPT that can you write the code for count variable to plot its distribution using, let's say, histogram. So it has written the code for us. So let's plot and confirm whether there is some skewedness or not in our target variable. So when I run this command, I can see that there is a right skewedness in the data set. What it means is that in a given hour, we have a lot of rows, something around like 3000 rows or a 3000 hours in a given data set, where our total sales happen between around, I guess, 0 to 50. If this particular bin width is 50, so we typically have a lot of sales in a given hour, which has around 50 sales are happening in a given hour. But there are certain hours where we can see that we almost have like 900 sales or 800 rows, but their count of frequency is very less in a given hour. But mostly on an average, our sales are happening around, on a median level 145. So around 50% of our sales have happened less than 145 in a given hour. But on an average in 1 hour, we are expecting sales of about 191. But we can see some of the values can happen like 600 or 550, 500 as well. So we can see that there is a right skewedness in the data set. So when we do our kind of a feature transformation, so we will do some kind of an functionality to convert this distribution into a more bell-shaped curve. So let's move on to our next step. So let's go into the documentation of our chat GPT and let's see what they are suggesting our next step. So we have explored our missing values and we found that there are two columns which has some missing values. Now let's clean the data by handling missing values. So we can suggest that we found two missing values. We found two columns, or rather we say we found two columns which has missing values, and the columns are count and holiday. So write the code to replace the values with some legitimate values. So write the code to replace missing values with some legit values. So we are not dropping the missing values. We will be replacing the missing value with some legit value. So let's see what ChatGPT suggests us. For count values, for count column, it's suggesting to replace the missing values with the mean values. And for holiday column, since it's a categorical column which has 0 or 1s, it's suggesting us to use the mode functionality. So let's copy and replace those values. So this particular code is to replace the missing values in the count column. And then similarly to replace categorical column, which is holiday, we are using the mode function. So let's confirm whether we have removed the missing values or not. So we can use this code itself. And now we can see all the missing values have been replaced from our data set. Now we have cleaned up some of the data, we have do some kind of a profiling, but still we have not did some kind of a data exploration through visualization. So let's ask chat GPT to create some kind of a visualization graph, because I want to understand if there is any relationship between our target variable and some of the input columns. So we will ask ChatGPT, let's create some visualizations between input columns, input columns and target and count column, to understand the relationship and the patterns, to understand the relationships and patterns. And let's see what ChatGPT suggests us. So it has suggested us a lot of different visualizations. So let's create one by one and see if we can find some good information. So the first thing, it's mentioning that to scatter plot for continuous variables like temperature, humidity and wind speed, we can create scatter plot to see how they correlate with count. So let's run this command, copy this command and run this command and see what we are getting here. So it's showing the relationship between temperature versus sales or count. So count is basically sales. So we can see that in this, we can see that, when the temperature is increasing up between after 10 degrees Celsius or 15 degrees Celsius till 35 degrees Celsius, we have seen some kind of increase in the number of sales, which is quite understandable, because people wants to ride their bike when the temperature is much more pleasant, as compared to when the temperature is very low, like 0 degree, 3 degree or 5 degree, or if the temperature is very high, which is very hot, like after 36 degree, 37 degree. So it shows that there is some kind of a relationship. Again, it's not a very linear relationship where you get the correlation value of 1, but I can see that there is some relationship with the temperature. Now let's move on to the next visualization, which is suggesting us the box plot. And let's copy this command and let's see what kind of a visualizations we get. So now it's showing me a box plot and showing me the relationship between sales or the count column versus the season. So we want to understand, is there is any kind of a relationship that in particular season we see a increase in sales as compared to some other seasons. So one thing we can see that season 1 we don't expect to be have a very high number of sales, and this might be winter weather, and we saw in the previous that when the temperature is low, sales tends to get low. But when we see the season 2 and 3, which looks to be a more spring season or more pleasant weather, between probably temperature between 15 to 30 or 35, and we see a increase in the sales. And similarly, once we start moving into higher degrees or higher weather, this would be probably season 4, when we see sales again started going down compared to season 2 and season 3. So this shows that season also play an important role with respect to our sales. So let's see the bar plot. So let me copy this code and let's run this command to see what we are getting. Now it's showing me if there is any kind of a relationship between holiday and non-holiday, and we can see that between holiday and non-holiday, it's not showing me a lot of difference in the sales. We can see sales looks to be quite similar, although during non-holiday, which has a slightly increased bar, might have a little higher sales compared to non-holiday, but again it's not a very conclusive relationship. So let's move on to the next one and let's plot some time series. So let me copy this command, and when I run this command, I can see so it's showing me the sales at a day level, and I can see that sales are much more higher in the month from April onwards till October, and that's where again it's very correlated with the weather and the season as well, that we see higher sales when the months are from 04 till 10. So what I will do is that let's create some visualizations on the timestamp based on the time of the day as well, the time of the day, or maybe at the monthly level. So let's ask chat GPT, create uh, two similar time series time series uh, plots between hour of the day and count, as well as uh, monthly trend with respect to count. So it has given us two codes. So let's create hourly time. So that would be much more interesting as well, if hour plays an important role and as well. So we can see that our sales get increased when the hour of the day, means this 6 to 8, which would be 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. So might be a lot of working people are using, or maybe school students would be using. So that's why we have seen an increase in the sales, and then afterwards it starts going down. But then again in the evening, maybe after 4 p.m, 16 means 4 p.m, we again saw a increase in the sales till probably 5, and then again afterwards it starts going down, but still it has a very high frequency sales till 6 p.m or 6:30 p.m. Again, it might be a lot of working people are using to go back to their home. So we can see that hour of the day also play an important role. So one more analysis which I want to see, maybe at the, let's see again at the monthly level, and we can see, which we saw in from this graph as well, that when our months are start increasing after April, we have seen an increase in the sales till October, which is 10, which might again correlate because of the weather conditions. One thing which I want to see the visualization is to between holiday and sorry, working day and the non-working day. So let's see, create a graph between working day and total sales and count, I would say, and count. So let's copy it and let's see what we get. And this is what we are getting between non-working day and working day. We can see that working day has a slight higher sales compared to non-working day. Again, it's not very completely conclusive, so we cannot say that it's clear that working day has high sales compared to non-working day, because the charts looks very similar to each other, but still we can see that working day has a slightly increase in the sales count compared to the non-working day. So I think from the visualization perspective or the exploration perspective, this might be a, I think, good idea to get on about the data profiling. So let's go back on the top what ChatGPT has suggested, some of the other step, and see did ChatGPT has missed suggesting any of the step. So we have already cleaned up the handling missing values. We have already seen some of the exploration part. What next is suggesting is to go with the step 2, feature engineering. Now for the feature engineering, I have decided 4 steps, and why I have decided these 4 steps based on the ChatGPT recommendations. So now in step 2, feature engineering, ChatGPT is suggesting us that we should create new features, especially extract the hour of the day from the date time column. Similarly, we should do a one hot encoding about some of the categorical variables like season, holiday, working day, and weather. And then I add couple of other feature engineering step would be transformation about count variable. We saw that our target variable count is little right skewed, so we need to convert into a certain transformation which can give little closer to bell-shaped curve, if not exactly close. And then finally we will going to drop some of the unnecessary columns. So let's go into the ChatGPT and let's ask ChatGPT if to create some of the timestamps column from the existing columns. So let's pull it here, copy, and let's go. and paste it here. So we will ask ChatGPT, to create new columns such as hour, day, month, year. Create new columns such as hour, day, month, year, and they will be derived from column name. Let's put the name of the column. So the name of the column is date time, column name date time, and append all the new columns in existing data frame, which is df. So it has given us the code for it, so let's copy it and let's paste it. And when we run it, we can see that we have got the hour, month, day and year. We can see that from this date time column, year is 2011, and we can see that year is 2011. Similarly, we can see that a month is 1 is coming. It also given the date, which is coming 1, so we can see that it looks right. And let's see that timestamp. So 00, we're coming for the first row as 0. For second row, hour is 1, and we can see that hour 1 is coming. Similarly, for third row, hour 2, we are getting 2. For next row, the hour is 03, and we are getting 3. So it means Chat GPT or Python has converted the features correctly. So this particular feature has been completed. Let's go with the next one, which is to categorical column. So let's go back to Chat GPT and ask ChatGPT to convert all those categorical columns into dummy variables or encoded columns. So let's copy. Let's go at the end. And similarly, we can provide encode categorical variables like season using techniques like one-hot encoding, and new features should be included in df itself. So ChatGPT is planning to use get dummies function from the pandas library to convert all the categorical columns into one hot encoded. So let's copy this one as well and let's paste it. So actually first it picks the 4 columns, and then this 4 columns will come from the data variable or from the data frame called df, then find the df and then create the encoded variables and store in the new data frame called df underscore encoded. Although we asked to include this encoded columns in df itself, but I think it has created in the new data frame called df underscore encoded, but that's fine. Going forward, we will going to use df underscore encoded, and we can see that this new features have been appended, and the original feature, which is season and working day, has been removed because we don't need it anymore right now. So now the next is to drop unnecessary columns. So what we do, we will drop unnecessary columns, especially the date time column. We don't need it. We also will going to remove the casual and the registered column as well, because again we only require count column, and this count is basically a summation of casual plus registered, and if we keep casual and registered in our training the model, it will create a target leakage as well. So let's remove this 3 column, which is date time, casual and registered. So let's ask ChatGPT drop 3 columns from df underscore encoded data frame, and these 3 columns are date time. Then let's remove this column called casual and register. So now let's wait for ChatGPT. So ChatGPT has given us the code, and now let's copy and paste it and drop it. And now we can see that date time column has been removed, casual is removed, and registered is removed. So the next one, which we have not done yet, yes, is to transform about the count variable. And we saw in our visualization exercise that this column is right skewed. So let's inform the ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT how we can convert into a more normalized or a bell-shaped curve or something. So let's inform in df underscore encoded data frame column, which is our target variable. Sorry, in df underscore data frame we have a column called count, which is target variable, and it's right skewed. So transform this variable in such a way so that it can be bell-shaped curve. So basically ChatGPT is suggesting us that we can use the log functionality to convert the count into a more bell-shaped curve. So let's copy and paste, and let's see what results we get. And we can see that as I mentioned, that ChatGPT has suggesting us to use the log transformation to convert into a more bell-shaped curve. But one thing you should notice that it's transforming this log value and storing it the original variable called count. So we don't want to store this new values in the original column. We will create a new column, let's say transform count, transform underscore count. So let's print the results now. So now we have these columns like temp, atemp, humidity, wind speed. We have the original column called count, and now we also have the transform column called count, which is the log values of so 16 is the original value and its log value is 2.83. Similarly, the original value of sales or count value is 40 and its transform value or the log transformation value is 3.713, and so on. So let's first go back into ChatGPT and see that whether we are going in the right direction or not. So we can see that the step 2 has been completed based on ChatGPT suggestion, that we have convert dummy variables, our categorical columns, and similarly we have extract some of the hour and the day from the datetime column. Now the step 3 they are suggesting us is to split the data set into two parts, training set and the test set, and the common split is 70-30 or 80-20. So let's go with this 70-30, which is the most standard common way of splitting the data, and let's see what we get from the ChatGPT itself. So what I'm saying is that let's split the df underscore encoded data frame what we have into 70-30 split, where our target variable is let's confirm the name of the column, which is count underscore transform, I guess. Let's confirm on that, which is transform underscore count. Let's paste it here and let's see the code for it. So let's copy the code and let's run it. So let's confirm whether the written code looks to be correct or not. So here it's giving x equal to df underscore encoded dot drop, and it's dropping the two columns count basically we don't require, as you know, that is the original value, and the count underscore transform is our transformed target variable, so we are dropping both. And then similarly y is equal to df underscore encoded count underscore transform. So you can see that ChatGPT is very smart enough that this count underscore transform is basically derived from this column count, and it makes sense to drop this column as well from the training data as well. And in the y we are taking the target variable, which is count underscore transform, and then it's splitting based on 70/30. So since it's giving 0.3, which basically means 30% test data, and then random state is 42, and then we are printing the sizes of each of the variable. And we got a error on this one, so let's see the error. So it's saying that count underscore transfer not found in Excel. So let's see why. So basically, actually we have gave the wrong name, which is transform underscore count. So let's update the code and let's rerun it. And now after running the code, we have got the training x underscore train shape is 7620 rows and 16 columns, whereas x underscore test has 3266 rows and 16 columns, and similarly for our the y variables as well. So this looks to be good. We have split our data now. So now let's build our regression models. So for that, I'm choosing a model called XGBoost. So let me copy this one and then paste it. Now I'm telling to ChatGPT is now let's build a regression model using XGBoost and use some common and popular hyperparameters. And I also mentioned that use we can use grid search as well to find use grid search as well to find optimal hyperparameters, to find optimal hyperparameters. So it has started. So using the grid search CV method to find the optimal hyperparameters. So let's run this command and let's copy the next part, which is, so it's using 6 hyperparameters and these are the possible values it's giving. So let's copy this code. What for this exercise, ChatGPT has suggested to use some of the popular hyperparameter, these 6 ones. But for this exercise, for this video sake or for this course perspective, I am taking only the first 3, the learning rate, number of estimators, and max depth. So I'm removing the other 3 ones. And then it using the XGB regressor, which we need. I can paste it here as well. And then let's copy this code where is initializing the grid search, and then fit the model and perform grid search. And then copy this code further. Now this statement basically will print the best parameters it has got from the grid search CV functionality. So we can also print what exactly they have received. And then this part is done, and let's copy this part. And then finally they are evaluating the performance of the model using R squared and mean absolute error, mean squared error and mean absolute error. So what they are doing is that they have defined the 3 parameters and they are giving the values 0.01, 0.1 and so on. And then we will use the grid search functionality to figure it out which combination looks to be the best, and they will going to evaluate based on this scoring pattern. Once they figure it out the best hyperparameters, then those best hyperparameters will be feed into this training model. So that's where the real training will start based on the best chosen hyperparameters from the top code. So let's run, and it will going to take some time. It might take like 5 to 10 minutes depending upon your speed of your computer or the computational power, because we are doing a lot of different combinations here. So it will take 10 to 15 minutes to complete this code. So let's run this code. So the model has been successfully ran, and let's see what best parameters it has chosen here. So we can see that number of estimator they have chosen to be the 300 for training the model, Similarly, the max step they have chosen 5, and we can confirm by let's print the command here. So when we print here, let's copy this best params, and we can see that the best estimator learning rate they have chosen 0.1, 0.1, max step 5, and number of estimators 300. So, and now the results have been come. We have got mean squared error to be 0.09, which is like 9%, mean absolute error to be 0.2, which looks to be little high, 20%, and the r squared value is coming to be 0.95, which is very good. To be honest, 95%, getting 95% is really good. Now the next thing what I want to see in this calculation, now I want to compare about over prediction and under prediction, because that is also very important in regression. You don't want all the predicted values to be either under predicted or over predicted. We want something to be a very normal distributed of residuals, that some values are under predicted and some values are over predicted, and some are exactly overlapping between test and train error. We don't want all the values, all the predicted values have been over predict or under predict. So for that, let's ask ChatGPT if they can write the code to compare our over prediction and under prediction. So let's ask write a code or a histogram to compare our prediction and under prediction on prediction values. So let's copy this code and see the results. So we got an error here, and the error so actually we need to use y underscore predict. So let's replace here, and let's see if there is any other place. So now when we plot this graph, we can see that most of the our residuals or or the error between actual values and the predicted values lies very close to 0, and some of the values are going on the left side, which shows that we have some under predictions, and some are going under predictions, over predictions as well. So it means that our values looks to be very close to that 0 value. So they are looks to be a very good bell curve or a normal distribution, and that's exactly what we are looking for that. So this shows that our model has learned both under predictions and over predictions as well. And the last one thing which I want to check from this the performance of the model is using the cross validation as well. So let's ask ChatGPT to write a code for cross validation. So can we write the code for tenfold cross validation? So it's have started writing the code for it. So let's go and see the results. And it's taking tenfold cross validation, and the scoring pattern it's using the R2 squared or R squared values. And let's see. So we can see that mean R squared value across 10 different iterations coming to be 95%, and standard deviation, which is, so it looks like in every iteration the R squared value looks to be very close. So what one more thing we can do is to see in every iteration what root mean square error and the R squared values we are coming. So let's ask from ChatGPT to print those results as well. So let's go back to ChatGPT and ask the ChatGPT in this code print the R squared and root mean square error for each cross validation round as well, and print their values. So let's copy this code and then print it here. And now we can see for every iteration R squared value and the root mean square value. So we can say that we can see that R squared value looks to be very close to 95%, but our root mean square value is coming to be around 28%, 30%, and so on. So we can see that final root mean values coming to be 31%, as well as the root mean square error value is coming to be mean value is 0.95, and these are all the results for it as well. So this is how we can build our model. We can evaluate the performance of the model with the help of a chat GPT, and you can see that chat GPT is doing a really good job in helping in building the code, building the model, doing some of the important feature engineering and the feature exploration step as well. So let's do next step is to find the feature ranking as well, because we want to know which features are contributing to the most. So like find the feature ranking. So let's copy this code, and now this set of line will tell me the feature importance as well. And we can see that our to be the most important feature, which is 0.44, and which makes sense because during our exploration part as well, we saw that our plays an important role, especially in the morning 6 to 8, and then in the afternoon or evening around 5 to 7 or 4 to 6 something. And then year also makes a lot of, year is coming to be second important, working day, then month, weather, temperature, holiday, humidity, and so on. So we can see that a lot of the things which we learned during our exploration part, which is making a lot of sense in the feature ranking part. Based on presenting the documents and the results and the findings to our stakeholders. So the idea would be is that we will ask chat GPT, so we will share our results, everything, and we'll ask chat GPT if you can write like a 2 to 3 page of a report or some kind of abstract or conclusion, so that we can share with our team, with our maybe as an assignment in the school or college, or maybe your manager has asked to create the report on that. So before even we start writing the results and the documentation part of this project, what we will do, let's summarize what we have learned so far, what we have done in this project. Now if you can see my screen, let me increase the size, let me increase it further. So what I have done is to write the results and the steps what we have done. So let's start with first thing. We know that we in our data set we have 10,886 rows and 12 columns, and some of the pre-processing steps what we have done. We found couple of our columns have null values. So for example, numerical column called count had 2 null values, and their null values have been replaced with the mean value. And similarly we had the missing value in the categorical column called holiday, which we replaced with the mode value of the column. Then secondly, we know that we found that in our target variable count, the distribution was right skewed, and then with the help of our chat GPT, they suggested us to convert that column into a transformation with a log 1, and that's a thing which we did. Now when we did our data visualization task, we found some interesting insights. One of the insights what we found is that sales of the bike per hour is always increased between temperature 15 to 32 degrees Celsius, whereas sales are typically low when the temperature is less than 7 or maybe greater than 35 or 40. Similarly, we also found that there are 4 seasons in our data set, and season 1 has the highest number of sales. Sorry, season 1 has the lowest number of sales, whereas season 3 and 2 were the highest sales for our business. It might be a reason that the reason why season 1 has a low sale, maybe because of the winter season, and whereas season 2 and 3 would be more like a spring, pleasant summer season as well. Now, and there is a correlation with the month of the year, so sales have shown an increase in the pattern from month April to October. And similar thing what we notice is that sales are typically high between 6 to 8 a.m. or maybe or 4 to 6 p.m. in the afternoon or evening, and it might be due to that lot of students and the working professional they are renting out the bike for commute or transit to their respective college or office, and that could be a reason why we see a higher sales compared to the other time of the day. And the last thing what we saw, that working day and non-holiday has a relatively little higher sales as compared to non-working day and the holiday day, but still the pattern was not very conclusive. So we saw that there is a slight increase or in the sales for working day and the non-holiday days, but it's not very something which we can confidently say that this pattern make a lot of sense, but we didn't find any conclusion on that. Now, once we completed the data visualization, data exploration part, the next thing what we did was the feature engineering. Now, in the feature engineering, that we had like some of the categorical columns like holiday, season, working day, and weather. So we have converted into a dummy variables using one hot encoding. Secondly, as we know that we found the target variable count to be right skewed, and we transform that this column in using log transformation. And one of the column in the data set has a date time column which has a date as well as the time values. So we extract the hour, month, day, and year from this column. And then finally we drop some of the the columns which was not required, which was registered users, casual users, and the date time column. So once we were confident about the feature engineering step, the next step what we did is to prepare the data for our machine learning modeling. So we went with a very standard traditional way of splitting the training and the testing data into 70 and 30 split, and we chose XGBoost model. Now the modeling step came up, and as you know that we chose XGBoost model, and we also selected 3 commonly used hyperparameters which were n estimators, max depth, and learning rate. And we used grid search CV method to find optimal hyperparameters, and the best values were 305 and 0.1. And finally the results part. Now results on our test validation data, the MSE was 0.09, mean absolute error was 0.2, and R squared value was 0.95. We also checked that model is not suffering from the over and under prediction. That was a good good insight. And then finally the results on the 10-fold cross validation were this one, and our mean R squared was 0.95 and standard deviation of R squared was 0.0064. Now finally we found the feature importance. We did the feature importance as well, and we found our year, working day, month, weather, temp were some of the most important features for this model. So what the next step what we are planning to do is to copy all those things and paste it into our ChatGPT, and we will going to ask ChatGPT to write like 3-page report and outlining all of the some of the important thing. And let's see what are some of the things ChatGPT will going to suggest us in this 3-page report. So let's copy this part and go to our ChatGPT, copy here, and let's ask or let's tell them to ChatGPT to write 3-page report. Write a 3-page report for MS Word document and outline all of the below things we did, and let's see what it comes. So right now it has outlined some of the important thing. Page 1, introduction and data overview, title, introduction, data overview. Then page 2 would be data pre-processing, exploration, and modeling. So data pre-processing, data exploration, one hot encoding, data preparation, modeling. Page 3 would be model evaluation, results, and the conclusion, which will be model evaluation, over and under prediction, cross validation, and feature importance, conclusion, recommendations and future work, acknowledgement, and references. So what we will do, we will ask is to write the 3-page report. on all the outline top on the all the outline topics. So write a 3-page document for all the above topics. So let's see what ChatGPT will going to write here. So we can see that, you know, first it's providing the introduction and the title, then it's mentioning about the data overview, and it has mentioned the rows and the columns and their description. The page 2, it's suggesting to write data pre-processing, exploration and modeling, and we can see that in the data pre-processing, ChatGPT has mentioned the missing values, count and holiday method to replace the target variable, and then the data exploration. Third would be key findings from data exploration, the data visualization task what we did, and it has mentioned all the insights what we have received. Then they have also mentioned the one hot encoding and the feature engineering step as well. Then the data preparation and for modeling 70-30, and the XGBoost model was chosen for regression. Then the final page, which is page 3, they have mentioned the model evaluation and the sum of the results and the feature importance step. And in the conclusion, the predictive model for bike rental sales demonstrate strong performance with a high R-squared value and the low error metrics. The model doesn't exhibit over or under prediction. The top contributing features include hour, year and working day. And the recommendations and future work. Further enhancement and fine-tuning of the model can be explored. Continuously monitoring and updating the model with new data can improve. You know, I felt that, you know, recommendations and feature work is not very clear. So let's ask ChatGPT to add some more details on the recommendations and future work. Where topic was not complete, and add some of the statistical or data science or machine learning functionality to improve our existing model. So let's see what ChatGPT will going to suggest here. So it's asking recommendations and future work, feature engineering, hyperparameter tuning, ensemble methods, outlier detection or feature selection. And the future work and extension, that would be a good thing, that, you know, this particular algorithm what we have written from end to end can be extended to some other applications as well, like for example for time series analysis or demand predictions, real-time integration, customer segmentation and so on. But, you know, the recommendations again what they have given looks to be very generalized. They have not mentioned any methods as such, like for example for feature engineering what other methods we can use, or for hyperparameter tuning or for ensemble methods what other methods we can select. They have not mentioned, but then it could be a good idea, you know, when you build your own report, you can ask, or you know, the ChatGPT that, you know, provide very specific generic examples rather than provide, you know, very standard responses on that. So there are finally, like, you know, I think next steps, this is the one thing, the two things which they have not mentioned in the report, which is next steps for improving model performance and conclusion. So let's ask the final thing from the ChatGPT before we wrap up our video and the course as well. So let's ask, you know, write next steps for improving model performance and the conclusion. I know you will going to say that, you know, recommendations would look very similar to write next steps for improving model performance. Let's see when we change the verbiage of a same thing, how ChatGPT will going to respond. So certainly there are next steps for improving. So here also we can see that it has provided some specific examples, like for fine-tuning Bayesian optimization to identify optimal hyperparameters. For ensemble methods, they are suggesting random forest or stacking. They have also suggested some advanced algorithms or time series modeling like LSTM, data augmentation and outlier detection, and so on. And at the same time, they have also provided the conclusion of the whole work as well. So this can be also very useful. Again, it looks to be very verbose. We can reduce the number of words, but I think for this video, for this example, that could be good enough.